When a council of Catholic bishops commissions a study and pays $1.8 million to look into the Catholic abuse scandal, and that study that they commissioned comes up saying that everything was unforeseeable and it all happened a long time ago and it wasn't that bad and it wasn't their fault, you'd probably want an unbiased third-party person from the atheist community with a degree in psychology to look over this report and tell you what he found. Well, here we go. This is my critique of the study entitled The Causes and Context of Sexual Abuse of Minors by Catholic Priests in the United States, 1950 to 2010. We'll start with the good parts of the study. The first part of the study that jumped out at me as being positive was that this is a study commissioned by Catholic priests run by John Jay College that says clearly that homosexual priests were no more likely to commit sexual abuses than heterosexual priests, which flies in the face of common stereotypes. Also good about the study was the part where it showed that there was a sharp decline after the 1980s in sexual abuse cases, and this is attributed to changes in the Catholic seminary in the educational programs. And I can call that a good part of the study, but it does kind of wash over the whole cover-up scandal where Catholic priests who were found to be pederasts were moved from one church to another, or one parish to another, or one diocese to another, in order to cover up what they had done. This part of the study shows that there's a decline, yes, but it does not address the cover-up. And now for the bad parts of the study. The first bad part of the study is the bias for the patrons, the $1.8 million that the Catholic bishops spent on this study, where they commissioned it themselves instead of a third party doing this research from outside of the organization. I don't know this for sure, but I'd be willing to bet that there was some part of the contract for that $1.8 million that said that if these Catholic bishops did not want to publish this study, that they could sit on it. So they had the choice of whether or not to sit on it, which makes me think how much more of their parishioners' money is being spent on other studies that might be just silenced and sat on and unpublished. That they can commission the study themselves means that they can choose what information they want to put out about themselves. Another bad part of the study is its questionable peer review. Yes, the study was disseminated on the internet and has an ISBN number that you could pay $200 for, but it was not submitted to a proper journal of science, and the reason for this is probably because they wanted to sidestep peer review. Now, if I were to have peer-reviewed this study, one of the findings I would have been very alarmed by is the statement of the study where 6,000 priests in the last 60 years were accused of abuse, which is only 5% of the total of Catholic priests. Of that 5% that were accused, 6,000 priests accused, only 4% of them were actual cases where the priest was a pedophile. So that leaves 96% of the cases being unfounded. Unfounded allegations, 96%. That stood out to me, and in fact, In the description box, I will cite a study which shows a comparable group, teachers, to have a rate of 41% of cases actually being accurate and being founded as child abuse, and 21% being inconclusive on top of that. So when you compare that to the 4% of allegations against priests, I'd say that it looks a little fishy. Also, as a peer reviewer, I would question the age of prepubescence that was used in their study. Now, if they were to have submitted this study to a proper journal of science, they probably would have had to follow the American Psychological Association's guideline in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of the age of 13 and under for prepubescence. Instead, they used the age of 10. When they used the age of 10, they found that only 22% of the sex abuse cases against Catholic priests were of a prepubescent nature. But if you look at their own numbers in the study, 51% of the cases fell between the age range of 11 and 14. So, if you were to go by the APA standards, that's around 73% were prepubescent. And to me, this is a game of definitions to make the Catholic priests look a little bit better, to try to mitigate some of the damage of these claims by saying that not all of those kids, were prepubescent, so they were, after pubescence. So, and that's a little bit better somehow. It's still a sex abuse case. In conclusion, those were just the two biggest findings that I had during my review of the study. If you'd like to review the study for yourself, there will be a link in the description box, and I will make sure that that link doesn't die in case, someone wants this study to disappear because of the backlash that comes from it, because this study will never make it to a proper scientific journal, because it really just amounts to the minimizing of sexual abuse atrocities of Catholic priests.